Stop assuming December is harmless. It's the month that exposes every financial weakness you've been hiding. You think the danger is overspending, but the real threat is sleepwalking into a trap that powerful players set while everyone else is distracted. You move through the end of the year as if nothing changes, but everything changes. December is not a celebration. It is a battlefield disguised as a holiday. You are taught to relax when pressure increases. You are conditioned to spend when uncertainty rises. You are encouraged to ignore the future when consequences are closest. That is why the powerful get richer while everyone else bleeds quietly. They understand one thing you don't. Money is not emotional. Money is a predator. It waits for those who behave like prey. You keep believing next year will save you. You keep repeating the same excuses. You wait for motivation, for clarity, for perfect timing. But the world does not care about your intentions. It only responds to your discipline or your weakness. December rewards one type of person, the one who prepares while everyone else indulges. Stop confusing comfort with safety. Comfort is how people lose status without noticing. You feel calm while your financial position erodes. You feel generous while your future shrinks. You feel in control while your options disappear. You think you are choosing pleasure, but pleasure is choosing you. You were never taught the rule that governs every end-of-year decision. The cost of a mistake multiplies when time is short. A bad habit in January is an inconvenience. The same habit in December is a fall. You don't have months to correct it. You have days, and every day you hesitate becomes a weapon used against you. Here is the first truth the powerful follow. You never enter December unarmed. They don't wait for the year to finish before acting. They create distance from the crowd before the crowd even realizes a shift occurred. You enter the month hoping to survive. They enter expecting to advance. You cannot keep playing with time as if it has no price. Every delayed decision compounds into loss. Every moment of hesitation becomes a debt. Every emotional purchase steals power from your future. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. If you do not cut what weakens you, December will do it for you, but without mercy. You think the rich have luck because you do not see their strategy. They move before circumstances force them. They reduce exposure when others increase risk. They refuse to make choices based on emotion, approval, or impulse. They treat money like a soldier, not a trophy, not a reward, not a form of self-soothing. You need to understand why December destroys people who ignore it. The environment changes. Social pressure increases. Spending becomes a display, not a necessity. People buy gifts to prove affection, dinners to prove belonging, and appearances to prove status. But the powerful never prove anything. They let silence create the impression. They let restraint build respect. Every year you repeat the same script. You promise to change in January. But January is not rescue. January is the consequence. You don't rise just because the calendar resets. You rise because you acted when others collapsed. You rise because you refuse to follow the emotional current designed to keep you predictable. You must see the invisible error. You treat December like a celebration instead of a calculation. You enter with open hands instead of a sharpened mind. You say, "I deserve this," without asking what it will cost you. Desire without strategy is the fastest route to dependence. Dependence is the fastest route to humiliation. The powerful follow a different principle. Never let the final month control the narrative of the next 12. They secure liquidity before the year ends. They eliminate obligations that weaken negotiation power. They position themselves to strike when the market resets. That is why they begin January at an advantage, while everyone else begins at 0 or below. Stop believing that discipline ruins the moment. Discipline protects the future moments you haven't earned yet. You think you are choosing enjoyment, but enjoyment without limits becomes regret. Restraint is not deprivation. Restraint is ownership. You must confront the rule you've been avoiding. Money respects those who act without emotion. If you continue responding with impulse, you will remain controlled by circumstance instead of controlling it. December is not the month to spend more. It is the month to think sharper. It is the month to detach from the crowd. It is the month to become dangerous. You need to see how easily people surrender their power. They spend to avoid discomfort. They spend to maintain image. They spend because silence feels threatening. But silence is where leverage grows. When you stop responding to expectations, you become unpredictable. When you become unpredictable, you gain control. Picture two people at the end of the year. One is laughing loudly at a crowded table, performing confidence while drowning in invisible anxiety. The other sits quietly, calculating, removing liabilities, preparing for opportunities the crowd will never see. One fears missing out. The other fears being unprepared. One feels rich for a night. The other becomes rich for a lifetime. You cannot keep confusing generosity with weakness. True generosity comes from strength, not sacrifice. When you give from emptiness, you create resentment. When you give from stability, you create respect. The world rewards the one who does not collapse under pressure. Remember this. December exposes the truth about who controls their life and who is controlled by it. If you keep ignoring these rules, the year will not end softly. It will end by reminding you that power does not wait for you to mature. Power moves without apology. You need to understand the second silent rule the powerful follow. They never enter the final month with open decisions. Every unresolved commitment becomes a chain. Every delayed payment becomes leverage against you. Every financial loose end is a weapon in someone else's hands. Power is not gained by what you start. It is gained by what you finish before others even react. You move through December carrying unfinished business like it's harmless. You tell yourself, I'll deal with it later. Later is where empires collapse. Later is where the weak gather. Later is when the consequences arrive without negotiation. The powerful never allow uncertainty to control the board. They close doors so no one can slam them. Stop treating avoidance as a strategy. Avoidance is silent self-sabotage. You think you are protecting your peace by not looking at your finances. You think ignoring numbers makes the pressure disappear. But reality does not negotiate with denial. Every day you refuse to confront the truth increases the price you will pay in January. Ask yourself a question you've never had the courage to face. How many decisions are you postponing because you fear seeing the truth instead of fixing it? The weak avoid clarity because clarity demands action. The powerful seek clarity because clarity creates control. You were never taught this. Money punishes delay more than mistakes. A mistake can be corrected. Delay compounds. Delay spreads. Delay transforms into consequences that cannot be reversed with effort. The world does not forgive slowness. You must internalize the third principle. If you do not set limits in December, other people will set them for you. Boundaries are not emotional. They are economic. Every unplanned purchase is a boundary you failed to enforce. Every yes spoken out of discomfort is a future sacrifice. The rich are not cold because they lack empathy. They are cold because warmth without limits becomes exploitation. People will test you more in December than any other month. They will ask for favors. They will expect generosity. They will assume you will say yes, not because they are evil, but because you trained them to believe your comfort means nothing. Here is the first shift. Stop explaining your limitations, enforce them. Explanations invite negotiation. Boundaries create respect. When you say, I can't, people push. When you say nothing and do nothing, people adjust. You must understand how perception shapes financial reality. People respect the one who doesn't need to be understood. People follow the one who is not available to everyone. People trust the one who does not collapse under pressure. Status is not loud. Status is consistency. Now you face the fourth rule. The powerful treat attention as currency. You waste it. You give it to distractions, to drama, to conversations that reduce your focus. Meanwhile, the rich treat attention like capital. They allocate it strategically. They direct it toward information that increases advantage, not emotions that increase weakness. Every time you react, you pay. Every time you argue, you pay. Every time you chase validation, you pay. Not in money, but in bandwidth. Once your attention is drained, your decision-making collapses. And when decisions collapse, financial destruction becomes inevitable. You need to see how the world manipulates the unfocused. Advertisers don't target the disciplined, they target the exhausted. They target the overscheduled. They target the ones who numb instead of think. The rich profit from distraction because distraction turns strong people into predictable consumers. So here is the correction. Protect your attention like wealth. Reduce noise. Reduce screens. Reduce emotional triggers. You don't need more motivation. You need less interruption. Picture this scenario. You wake up and immediately check your phone. Your mind is hijacked before your day even begins. You react to messages, notifications, expectations. Hours pass. You feel busy but accomplish nothing. By night, you are mentally drained and financially reckless. You buy to feel relief. You spend to feel control. This is not weakness. It is conditioning. Now picture the opposite. You wake up in silence. You review numbers without emotion. You eliminate one liability before noon. You ignore invitations that drain your time. You say no without explanation. You end the day with more clarity than you started. One person becomes a consumer. The other becomes a strategist. You must absorb the fifth rule. Cash is not freedom. Cash flow is. Savings without movement create stagnation. Stagnation creates fear. Fear creates irrational decisions. The rich do not hold money for comfort. They deploy it for control. They build systems that continue working when they stop. They build structures that do not collapse under pressure. You were raised to think earning is the goal. Earning is the starting point. Retention is the difference between stability and dependence. Multiplication is the difference between survival and dominance. The rich do not admire income. They admire insulation. Insulation means protection from uncertainty. Insulation means options when others have none. Do not misunderstand this. The goal is not to hoard. The goal is to position. Money that sits eventually shrinks. Money that moves strategically expands. But movement without intelligence is destruction. This is why most people never escape the cycle. They move emotionally instead of tactically. You must confront the sixth reality. Your environment controls your financial behavior more than your intentions. If you stay around people who normalize debt, you will accept it. If you stay around people who celebrate overspending, you will justify it. If you stay around people who fear discipline, you will avoid it. The rich are selective, not because they are arrogant, but because exposure shapes identity. You become what you tolerate. You mirror what you watch. You absorb what you repeat. If you want to change your financial trajectory, you must first change the conversations you allow. There is a rule the powerful never break. You do not discuss your plans with those who lack results. Advice is not equal. Opinions are not neutral. Some conversations cost more than mistakes. Some relationships prevent growth more than failure. Stop letting the unqualified shape your decisions. Stop letting emotionally unstable people influence your direction. Stop letting insecure minds limit your potential. If someone cannot control their own life, they will never understand how you are trying to redesign yours. Now you face the seventh and most dangerous truth. December is not the end of the year. It is the beginning of your next financial identity. If you finish the year passively, you start the next one powerless. If you end with excuses, you begin with regret. If you close weak, you open weaker. Strength is not built through intention. Strength is built through interruption. Interrupting habits, impulses, and patterns that have kept you small. You are not fighting circumstances. You are fighting your former self. Look at your history. Every December has repeated the same script. Temporary pleasure, temporary relief, permanent consequences. The cycle does not break because the calendar changes. The cycle breaks because you stop behaving like the person who created it. Everything you do in the final days of the year will echo for months. Your discipline will compound. Your hesitation will compound. Your spending will compound. Your silence will compound. The question is not whether December changes you. It's whether you decide the direction. You are entering the phase where excuses no longer matter. The first rule of December was awareness. The second is execution. Awareness without movement is self-deception. You already know what is draining you. You already know where the leaks are. The powerful do not wait for motivation. They act while still uncomfortable. Stop thinking you need more time. Time is not your ally in December. Time accelerates consequences. Time exposes hesitation. Time rewards the disciplined and destroys the passive. If you do not control these final weeks will control the next 12 months of your life. You need to understand this correction. You don't rise by planning. You rise by eliminating. You think progress comes from adding more goals, more tasks, more attempts. But addition increases chaos. Subtraction increases power. Remove the habits that drain you. Remove the expenses that trap you. Remove the people who sabotage without noticing. Ask yourself a brutal question. How much of your financial suffering comes from what you refuse to cut? Weak people add, strong people subtract. Now you face the eighth law, the powerful never violate. Emotional spending is not a mistake. It is a strategy used against you. Companies know you are tired. They know the holidays make you vulnerable. They know loneliness increases consumption. They don't need you to think. They need you to react. Everything in December is designed to bypass logic. Sales, pressure, expectations, guilt. Not because the world is evil, but because the world understands human weakness better than humans understand themselves. Here is the rule. Never spend to change a feeling. Spend only to change a result. If you buy to feel better, you will lose twice. First the money, then the control. If you invest to create improvement, you gain twice. First the progress, then the confidence. You must begin using a weapon most people never develop. Delayed response. Not delayed action, delayed reaction. When someone asks for money, wait. When you want to purchase something, wait. When emotion rises, wait. Waiting is not freezing. It is reclaiming control. A powerful person is never rushed. A weak person is always reacting. Visualize this. Someone presents you with an urgent offer. The old you responds immediately, afraid to miss an opportunity. The new you says nothing. Silence changes the dynamic instantly. Silence makes them reveal their true motive. Silence forces the world to negotiate. Now internalize the ninth law. You don't need more income, you need fewer leaks. A bucket with holes cannot be filled. Most people don't escape financial pressure because they keep increasing water instead of fixing the container. Track every recurring cost. Track every invisible subscription. Track every small habit that accumulates. You are not destroyed by big disasters. You are destroyed by unnoticed patterns. Small leaks sink ships. Small leaks sink futures. You need to apply the protocol, the powerful use. 1. Cut the invisible. Remove every automatic expense that gives nothing back. 2. Freeze the emotional. No purchases made under excitement, stress, or guilt. 3. Redirect the saved. Send it immediately to a productive target, not sitting, not waiting. 4. Repeat weekly. Wealth is not built yearly. It is maintained through micro-corrections. If you do this for 4 weeks, your entire financial identity shifts. Not because of miracles, but because of structure. Now we enter the 10th truth. Your dignity and your financial decisions are linked. When you cannot say no, you lose respect. When you cannot set limits, you lose stability. When you buy to impress, you lose both money and authority. Ask yourself, how many times did you say yes because you feared disappointing someone who does not even think about you today? You cannot rise while depending on approval. Approval is the currency of the powerless. Respect is the currency of the strategic. Here is a real scenario. A relative asks you to contribute more than you can afford. You apologize, explain, justify. Their respect drops instantly. Now imagine the alternative. You respond calmly. I won't be doing that. No explanation, no debate, silence. Respect increases. The boundary becomes reality. People don't respect your excuses, they respect your finality. Now confront the 11th law. Never enter January with debt created from December emotions. Debt taken for strategy is leverage. Debt taken for pleasure is enslavement. The powerful borrow for expansion. The weak borrow for relief. If you end the year owing more than you began, you are not celebrating, you are surrendering. You are buying comfort with future suffering, and suffering always charges interest. You need to understand how identity traps you. You say, "This is just how I am." No, this is how you have been trained. Identity is not inherited, it is repeated behavior. If you want a different financial life, you must become someone your past self would not recognize. The 12th law is the quietest and most brutal. Your future wealth depends on who you stop being, not who you want to become. Becoming is easy to fantasize about. Stopping is uncomfortable. Stopping requires sacrifice. Stopping demands self-confrontation. But nothing grows until something ends. Here is the final image. Picture yourself standing in an empty room on the last night of the year. No noise, no pressure, no pretending, just truth. You are not competing with the world. You are competing with the version of yourself that repeats December like a ritual. Strong people break patterns. Weak people relive them. If you are done being predictable, say one thing in the comments. I refuse to repeat the same December. And if you're part of the few who rise instead of collapse, subscribe. Only the disciplined belong here.